Good morning, good day, or good evening, depending on what time it is you happen to be listening to this podcast / broadcast of Copa Radio Johannesburg. My name is Ian Gertenbach. I am the music culture and music business lecturer at this fine institution, and I'm joined by a gentleman named Alex Temperley, yes?
Yes, indeed. I'm Alex Temperley, the drum and general music tutor at Copa Johannesburg.
General music tutor. So what does that cover? Just clarify.
General music.
General music, okay. All military themed, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. No, of course. I mean, it's a music institution. Of course, the military's involved.
All right. Well, for those who are wondering why exactly I've got this rakishly handsome young man in my studio over here, he is going to be talking to us about various techniques and things just to look out for regarding various interviews and such. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. It's just a few things to consider when doing an interview,
okay.
And ways that one can prepare. Doing an interview can be quite a daunting task, especially if that can determine what you do for the next few years.
Yes. Can
you afford to live, basically? And meeting someone for 5 minutes, 10 minutes might be the determining factor in that.
Exactly. And also, in particular, the music industry is so very focused on the concept of networking and effective networking.
Absolutely.
At that. So even beyond the interview spectrum, these are, I think, skills that would really apply to many walks of life.
Certainly.
Okay, well, do you want to take us away there?
Okay,
Alex?
so the first question I want to bring up, there'll be three in total, but the first one is, tell me about yourself. It's a very common question in interviews, regardless of what profession, and it can be quite daunting. I mean, if I say to you, just tell me about yourself.
Well, thankfully, I'm prepared for these kind of things, so I guess this is also why I decided to choose to help host this. But as you see, I'm already stalling for time over here. So even the most prepared people can be caught off guard by this, but I think if I can dodge the question just a little bit more and actually put in there, you don't want to do what it is that I'm doing and try and fill up the space with words. You want to try and almost, I believe, rehearse a little bit what it is that you're going to say, but obviously without making it sound too rehearsed, I'm guessing.
Precisely, yeah.
Okay.
So be succinct, direct and to the point. Like, to use your example, you did waffle a little bit.
Yes.
In a professional interview, that's probably not a good thing to do.
No.
So yes, rehearse. Don't make it sound like it's a rehearsed speech.
Yes.
But you can think of things to say, and try and think of things that are pertinent, that are relevant to whatever job you're doing.
Right.
Like, for example, when I did my audition for Copa, it's irrelevant how many cats I have.
Yes.
So
as beautiful as those cats may be.
Yeah, they're wonderful. But bringing up that information is irrelevant.
Yes.
So the audition was to work at Copa teaching drums. So what did I do? I spoke about what I'd done.
Exactly.
Well, first of all, I studied at Copa. I've got these qualifications in drums. I've got these experiences outside of Copa.
Yes.
Etc.
Exactly. So obviously, but I do think there is a little bit of merit. It's all about strategic releasing of information as well, I would imagine.
Yes.
Like obviously you don't want to be all business kind of thing.
Absolutely.
You want to sort of show that you're a bit of a well-rounded individual sort of thing.
Exactly. There's more to you than a piece of paper with a qualification on it.
100%. 100%.
Okay, so then the next question, now this one is quite tough. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses?
Always a tricky one to ask. Eh?
I've found with myself and with everyone I've asked, it's very easy to identify what we think our weaknesses are. But what are our strengths? That, for me at least, is very hard. So with something like that, it's a good idea to ask other people.
Yes.
Ask friends and ask them to be objective.
Yes.
The point is not to put you down. You mustn't take it personally.
Yes.
It's just highlighting where you're weak and where you can get better.
Exactly.
So also, what are you good at? Ask your friends. They will, and also ask them to be objective.
Yes.
So your skills may not be academic, but maybe you're a really good people person.
Exactly. So also, I find with these kind of things as well, especially when being asked for their strengths and weaknesses, and you hit the nail right on the head as well, a lot of people find it incredibly easy to talk about their weaknesses. Why? Because we live in an unfortunately very negative world where it seems that our weaknesses are being shoved in our faces on a daily basis. And while that may be the case, as you've just said, getting the opinion of objective friends and family who can really hone in on the things that you can actually bring to the table, because the more you know about those things, you've said it perfectly. You have to actually work on those things and accentuate the strengths and develop the weaknesses. Not to be weaker weaknesses, but more strengths kind of thing.
An example I've come across was Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was criticized for his defensive play. So he worked on it, and he won Best Defensive Player in the NBA 2 years in a row. So, I mean, he turned one of his weaknesses, what people criticized him on, into something he was very good at. And partly because of that, he's one of the greatest of all time.
Of course. I must also mention that there's a difference between taking all criticism to heart, because obviously there is some unfounded criticism.
Absolutely.
So there needs to be, I think it also is a measure of one's personal sort of maturity, I guess, if nothing else, to be able to, sift the insults from the actual constructive criticism and then actually work on that. But, haters going to hate.
But that's also why I suggest asking friends. Because they're not going to try and put you down.
Yes.
They're going to try and find ways that hopefully highlight your weak areas in a way that you can build them up.
Yes.
Not trying to crush you.
And if they don't do that, then maybe you shouldn't be friends with those people.
Yeah, perhaps.
Perhaps so. Right, what else?
Okay, and finally the third thing, why you? Presumably, you're not the only person who's going to be doing an interview for whatever this position is. Sure. Why you? Why are you better than the other candidates?
What are you going to bring to the table that they won't?
So this goes above and beyond what sort of qualifications you have.
Yes.
It's like, what type of person are you? Are you an outgoing person? Are you a laid back person? Do you have the attitude that something is good enough? Because if that's the case, chances are you're not going to be the candidate they choose.
No, of course not. But you must also be honest, because you don't want to. I don't think anyone would want to, put themselves up on a pedestal as this, confident go-getter, great people person, and then find themselves in a situation where, because of what they said in the interview, they're now thrust into that situation, and
can they
fall
deliver?
Flat.
So honesty is a virtue, but as you say, don't necessarily be totally honest.
Strategic honesty.
But that's something that employers might value.
That's also
the fact that you're honest. You tell them exactly what sort of person you are, and then they know what to expect, and they can make an educated decision on whether they want you or not.
I find honesty generally happens to be a pretty good policy to abide by.
There are obvious cases where maybe not. For example, your girlfriend, does this dress make me look fat?
Yes.
No, of course it doesn't, regardless of what the answer actually is. So tact comes into it.
But having a keen eye for interpersonal relationships, and in particular interpersonal politics at whatever, even if it's not necessarily within the sort of job that you're working in, but the kind of arena that the job itself finds itself together with amongst other jobs of that kind. For example, any kind of music scene. For example, granted, like obviously, and I do believe you mentioned that we might look at band-related kind of things in the future. Okay, and I don't want to go too far into that. But having a keen, something I've realized myself, having a keen sense of being able to read the kind of levels of honesty that would kind of fly in each situation is obviously a very valuable skill as well.
But that'll come with time. You can't really meet someone for the first time and know how honest you should be, etc.
Unless, of course, you're some sort of medium.
Yeah, there are...
That's unscientific, I think.
It's objectionable. But yeah, so why you? First of all, you have to believe in yourself. If you don't, no one else is going to.
That's true.
Don't oversell yourself. For example, I'm a drummer. I came to Copa. I did an interview with Garth, and I did in no way say I am the best person in this job for this job. You will not find anyone better.
No, of course not.
Because if that came up, I could not deliver.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was honest. I was honest with what I thought my difficulties would be. I was honest with what I thought I would be capable of. And Garth's known me for a little while, so he had some notion of my personality.
Yes.
But who I was a few years ago is quite different to who I am now.
especially if you're working towards growing all the time as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I tried to give him a better picture of what I've become, as opposed to the student he saw.
As well as the potential for what you could become as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up for.
Okay. I just want to summarize the 3 questions so that they're close together for anyone listening.
Go for it.
So first one, tell me about yourself. Number 2, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses?
Yes.
Finally, number 3, why you?
So if we keep these things in mind,
should have a better interview, or at least a more prepared interview.
Which is better than a not prepared interview at all.
Absolutely, because that comes across.
All right, fantastic. All right, well, guys, that brings us to an end of an as of yet untitled segment. Various funny titles have been bandied about, like Adulting 101 and How to Be Lacquer 101 and all these kind of things. But in general, I think we can put it under the interpersonal relations umbrella necessary for professional living and specifically working in the music industry as well.
Nice and succinct title, I like it.
Well, it's unnecessarily wordy and overly specific and detailed, but hey, it's something. Alex, thank you very much for joining me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Keep it real, everybody.